Welcome to the State of the Pork Industry Report, brought to you by Neogen. Neogen is committed to being your trusted partner in the swine industry, delivering optimized solutions and technology. For more than 20 years, Neogen has been an industry leader in biosecurity solutions. With a dedicated network of scientists and technical experts in the field, Neogen's goal is to meet the needs of swine producers. To learn more, visit neogen.com or contact your Neogen representative. My name is Jennifer Shike. I serve as the editor and brand leader for Farm Journal's Pork, and I have the privilege of spending my days covering pork industry issues and news, as well as telling stories of the people in our industry and exploring topics to help the industry grow. I am super excited to dig into the fourth quarter of 2024 through the lens of our experts, Dr. Cara Haden, Adam Annegers, Randy Kuker, and Brad Eckberg. Well, welcome, guys. It's so good to see you again. What a start that we've had to 2025. I feel like I have been running hard all month, and I think that my camera will prove the diversity and the craziness of this season of life that I am in right now. And but I know I'm not alone in that. And so, I guess I just wanted to start off today by catching up just a little bit. Brad, you're probably the big news because you've made a career change. And I know it wasn't an easy decision for you. So tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you.
Yeah, definitely not an easy choice to make. Spending 10 and a half years with the company and kind of helping build the products and working with so many great people, such as everybody on this call and other producers and industry affiliates. But with that being said, yes, I'm on week 3. Started working here at MTech Systems. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. They've been around for about 30 years, 300 employees, so a lot bigger than the company I used to work for. Really, I guess without too much of a sales pitch here, but I'm going to be doing the account executive for North America, so being very interactive with customers, offering up a bunch of our solutions. I guess real quick about MTech is, what really excites me here is that they get it, like, tying systems together, sensors, controllers, helping a lot with that technology, bringing it together. They've got a lot of sustainability, product inventory, just a lot of things that really excites me. And just from a guy who grew up in small Podunky, Minnesota, being able to work for a company like this is quite an honor, and really looking forward to working with a lot of producers again on a daily basis. Honestly, one of the best things about this job as well is I don't have to move, so I can stay living in Minnesota and see my kids grow up and graduate. And not a midlife crisis like Adam, but definitely very excited.
Well, Adam, speaking of that, how's everything going for you? What's new with your family right now?
Well, my midlife crisis just turned 5 months old. Little Liam's doing well, growing like a little weed, really starting to roll over, get chatty, pull my chest hair, pull my beard. He thinks it's funny, but it's really neat watching a little baby grow up and being a part of that. So I'm looking forward to spring weather coming, kind of getting over the hump from winter and enjoying some more outside time.
And does outside time mean more dog time, or what's the latest with the dogs?
Yep. So over the weekend, I was in South Dakota pheasant hunting. A couple of lodges there get dogs from me, so I got those took down to them, and we have a litter of puppies that's going to go home this Saturday, and then a couple litters due the first part of February. So, kiss the little babies goodbye and wish them best at their new homes, and then, turn around and get ready for the next group to come. So looking forward to getting some pictures of the little baby with puppies sitting on his lap. So be fun here in a couple weeks.
Well, you have to make sure you share those. I always love seeing all your photos and following what you're doing. It's really neat to see everybody's lives. Obviously you guys are so ingrained in your careers and what you do for the pork industry, but it's always fun to see what you're doing outside of the day in, day out jobs. So That's great news. And Randy, congratulations, because you've just been named to the Pork Leadership Institute class for 2025. And so I was just curious if you could fill us in a little bit on what that means or what's next with you in terms of PLI.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I guess I'll learn more about it this week. I actually go tomorrow to Des Moines, and I'll learn more about the process. From what I understand of this year, we'll be making a couple trips to DC. We'll get some media training, and we'll just kind of learn more about how National Pork Board and National Pork Producers Council works for the industry, and how all of those gears turn, and how that system works. And we'll be part of that training with a bunch of other people. Get to meet some new people from across the U.S. that are in the pork industry that I don't get exposed to on a regular basis, and just kind of learn their perspectives on it. And then from this, I was also asked to be on the officer board of the Illinois Pork Producers. I've been on the Illinois Pork Producer Board as a at-large director for 2 years now. So going into next year, I'll have some other responsibilities. So I'm excited about this opportunity and see what I can learn from it, and go from there.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you involved in that. It'll be fun. Hopefully we can catch up at Illinois Pork Congress coming up. That'll be fun. And
Yeah.
Cara, you probably have some pretty darn exciting news too, or at least as a mom, I can say congrats to you. You're officially done with potty training, and you're out of diapers. So just congratulations. That's big time.
Yep. I hear Adam talking about a baby starting to like coo and kind of look at you, and that is really exciting. But let me tell you, when you're done with diapers, life feels totally different. So that's probably my biggest news. I would say otherwise, my kids are horribly frustrated with the lack of snow we've had in Iowa. I can't say that I'm complaining, but they would love to be playing outside in the snow more than they are. But I keep telling them, like, winter's not over. We got a lot more time to go here. So yeah, that's probably my only update, I think.
Well, that's a pretty good update for sure. And yeah, I feel like I've been chasing around my kids quite a bit myself, but I will say one of the things that's been fun that I thought I might mention is just this pork podcast. I'm getting ready to tape episode 12 this week, and it's been really fun to look back on how those have evolved, and kicked off 2025 with Christine McCracken of Rabobank giving kind of an update. But we also had a little fun talking about our college kids. So on the other end of the spectrum, we weren't talking about potty training, but talking about what it's been like with our kids off in college. And she's also got a senior this year as well. So we had fun talking about that. And then I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Dadson family. Red sweater, her hair's in a bun. She's got the stare when she's showing her pigs.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I got
Yep. I've seen
with
that.
Paris and her family about what it's like to be. I mean, they're really sensations on social media. Like millions and millions of people go watch their videos of the kids showing pigs. It's crazy. So if you guys want to know more about that story, you'll have to go check out the Pork Podcast. But it's been fun. It's fun to kind of find those stories behind the story. And I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys today as we dig in and really just take a look back at the lessons learned and progress made, opportunities realized in 2024. Because there's no doubt that while 2024 was a challenging year for the industry, there were sure a lot of good moments too. And so, let's transition into that. Adam, what are some of your takeaways from your perspective on 2024?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me was we had just a little over a 20% turnover for the year, so almost an 80% retention. Which is just really outstanding for our industry. And it also came at a time where recruiting new employees was kind of at an all-time low. So it just goes back to if you've got the right culture and you're building towards the right culture, you will retain people, and they'll be happy to come to work for you. Having such a high retention rate was a huge take home for us and a huge win for us. And another thing is our sow numbers were down in the U.S. A little bit of retraction in the sow herd, but if you look at overall production and wean pigs produced, we produced more pigs with fewer sows. And there were several health challenges through some months in there, and Dr. Cara can touch on that a little bit later, but the genetics that we're working with has the potential to produce more pigs year over year, even with less sows out there. So excited about 2025. Pig markets are looking really good. It'd be fun to see what we can do this year.
Yeah, for sure. Brad, how about you?
A couple things. First thing would be, 2024 was really a year that was first for the third party Prop 12 audits. I think the industry from the third party auditing companies to the pork board and producers just really did a great job of preparing for those third party audits, making sure that producers had what they needed from a documentation standpoint. So give a lot of kudos and to a lot of people for just getting the industry and producers ready for those very important audits. The other thing that I've learned is kind of a refresher a little bit, but I mean, I've been in the industry for 26 already, but so I've seen some highs and lows throughout the years, and obviously the last year was definitely a low from a financial standpoint. Okay, I'm a data guy, so when times are tough financially, right, from the pork industry standpoint, data gets to be very important. From a lender standpoint, making sure that inventories are where they need to be. From a performance standpoint, how do you kind of compare against not only your peers, but against the industry as well? Or am I continuing to improve, like from a genetic standpoint, like Adam was talking about? And there's a lot of great resources out there, like some value-added companies like a Zoetis, Elanco, that are there to help you with your everyday focus points and production stuff. So having good data to say, okay, here's where my pain points are, whether it's from a grower standpoint or a health standpoint. Again, having quality data, being able to make decision making off of data rather than gut. The focus really, unfortunately, it's during bad financial times, but that's usually when data is very, very important to have that in place. So I think there's a lot to learn there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Randy, how about you with Grow Finish?
For us in 2024 for Grow Finish, we had probably one of our best years from start to finish. I think I've mentioned before, we manage pigs for 4 or 5 different groups, some large groups and some smaller groups, but collectively as a whole, for all 4 or 5 of those customers, we had really good closeouts from start to finish, really good health, good growth rates, got through the summer season, the warm season. We still put some good pounds on some pigs and saw some better than average performance until we got to the late part of the year, which isn't going to hit the 2024 numbers. But once we got into that November, December, we had a couple of our customers had some sow farms break with PRRS. So we're dealing with those challenges now, but our lateral transmissions across the board for us here in Central Illinois was rather minimal. We didn't have many issues to deal with. And it seemed like as a whole, the issues we had with E. coli seemed to dwindle down, and got a good handle on how to manage through that, and had some lessons learned there. But really happy for 2024 for our group and our team on a numbers perspective. So
Great. I may have to follow up with you on some of your E. coli lessons learned, because that was a topic I've been listening to people talk about at a lot of these shows. And so it's been on my mind. So maybe we'll have to chat later. But
okay.
Yeah, Cara, how is this resonating with what you're seeing when it comes to PRRS and other? There's been a lot of health topics. I have to look back at 2024 and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of big health stories of the year. So what are some of your key takeaways?
Yeah, I think one of the key takeaways is I've got job security, right? That's there's always going to be health stuff. So, I mean, I would totally agree with what Randy said. I think the 2023-2024 disease year for PRRS felt really, really good. And then going into this fall of 2024, I would agree. The chatter in the industry is that there's a feel that there's a lot more PRRS. I would say the MSHIMP data looks like it's pretty similar to last year, but just in talking with a lot of people, It sounds like there's been some pretty severe breaks, a lot of sow farm breaks is what I'm hearing. I would say also just from pig prices, I know there's been some contraction in the industry, but I do think some of this disease stuff is driving some of these really high wean prices going into 2025. So definitely kind of PRRS is on the mind as a topic from 2024. I would agree with Brad on some of the comments he made about Prop 12. I think at least from my perspective, the audits that I've been through in 2024 and with chatting with some others who do a lot of work with Prop 12, it feels like we've got that figured out. Like we kind of know what the auditors want, what they're looking for, what kind of documentation is needed. And so that just feels like that's going to be really smooth in 2025 and almost like we're kind of on autopilot at this point. Just some other things from my perspective. I think 2024 made it clear that influenza is going to continue to be a topic. So we had a number of highly pathogenic avian influenza cases in birds, and then also some spill over from migratory birds into dairy cows. Obviously, that was a huge discussion. We did have the one case in Oregon where it looks like it went from migratory birds into pigs. At this point, I don't think it's something we need to be super concerned about in pigs. Obviously, it's something we need to continue to keep our eyes on. My big focus for veterinarians and for everyone going into 2025 is, hey, do what you can do about some of these endemic influenzas that we have in pigs all the time. So vaccinate herds, vaccinate your employees, and then be comfortable talking to people about influenza and whether or not we think it's going to be a concern in pigs moving forward. So I would say those are some of my big ones. I think it's also been touched on, but the economic hardships of 23-24, it feels like with this change in wean pig pricing, man, I'm having a lot more positive conversations. And so it feels really, really good to, instead of talking about, okay, like what medication, what do we need to do to care for the pigs while spending as little money as possible? It feels like kind of the floodgates have opened up with more opportunities to use some more expensive medications. And that just the positivity overall in talking with producers has improved in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent point that how producers are doing for all of those of us, who are working in roles where we're supporting producers, when they're struggling, you're struggling too. And I think as I, think back, I'm not a resolutions girl. I've shared that. I'm not very good at resolutions, but I definitely feel like the end of a year, the beginning of a new year, or just like the closing of one chapter, the start of a next, whatever that might be, is always a good opportunity to look back at things that you've learned, lessons that you've discovered. And one thing that really stands out to me is 2024 was just such an incredible year in a lot of ways for me professionally, but also personally with my family. But I also realized I'm like, wow, I am tired. And one thing I'm not very good at is sometimes taking that rest that we all need to take. But I mean, I'm sure you guys can relate. I grew up with a dad who said, if you don't have something to keep you busy, I'll find you something to keep you busy. Because on a farm, there is always something to do. And there's always something that needs your attention. You can never, I was out cleaning pens the other night and I was just laughing. Like, it looked great for 2 seconds and then instantly not great, and it's, there's just always stuff to do in a barn. And there's always things that need done in our jobs too. But it can be exhausting always chasing that. And my mom always told me on the flip side, that the work will still be there tomorrow. And I kind of am trying to figure out how to balance that better in 2025, because there's always something to be chasing after and doing, but there's also a time where you need to rest and refuel, because you can't pour out of an empty cup. And so that's something that's been on my mind a lot as I look ahead at 2025. I've got to make sure and take some breaks once in a while and do some things for me. And that's going to make me better at what I do. What about you? Are there any lessons that you've learned recently that you're going to be focusing on in the year ahead? Brad, does anything stand out to you?
Oh, I'm learning things all the time. Where do I start? But I guess the strong shall survive. Just kind of going back to what we've been talking a little bit, it's been a couple of hard years, right? So, if you're sitting in a good position today, good job, especially coming out of, tough 2024, but there'll be another downward cycle, right? In the future, unfortunately, it's going to happen. It's just, when is it going to happen? So where are you at today as far as from a producer standpoint to withstand the next, slide economically? Producers are adapting, right? Whether it's pen gestation, antibiotic free, Prop 12, okay? We might not be a fan of it, but there's some benefit to having that from a producer standpoint, financially. Also from a strategic, business plans that we're seeing out there from, maybe it's time that I build a mill or buy a feed mill or consolidate areas, maybe where I'm raising pigs, being more efficient, right? From a medication usage, my people, where are my main focus points? Just kind of lining everything up, and preparing. You don't want to prepare for the worst, but you need to prepare for, something that this industry has its ebbs and flows, and you need to prepare for it. So just taking what we've learned in the past and trying not to duplicate it in the future.
Yeah, excellent point. Cara, any lessons learned for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into 2025, I've just been thinking a lot about like, what is the center of our industry? And so I looked at some National Pork Board data that they were great enough to share with me, and some of that is online. A lot of that is online that you can look at, but there's some huge concerns in pork consumption in the United States. And so especially when you look at generational lines, boomers ate a lot of pork. Millennials eat much less than boomers, and Gen Z eats half as much as millennials. And so in this recent downturn, I think we realized that no matter how low the pork prices go, that's not necessarily going to drive pork purchasing from millennials and Gen Z. And so 2025, I think as an industry, and then personally, we need to just be looking at like, how can we change our industry? Right now, we're very focused on production. I really think as an industry, we need to make a change to be customer focused. Like, what can we do to become relevant to millennials and Gen Z consumers? And so a lot of like Prop 12, kind of some of this welfare things, taste and flavor, there's so many things that fit into that really need to become more central to our industry than some of these discussions about average daily gain and feed conversion. And so I got to sit on a great presentation from Dr. Candace Croney from Purdue. And one of the things that she talked about is that what the consumer wants to know is that the pig lived a good life. Like, don't make it any more complicated than that. And so, so that's going to be kind of my focus this year, is trying to centralize our industry around something other than production numbers, but maybe more around the consumer and what they want, and trying to tell that story of pigs living a good life.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, and I mean, it reminds me too, like that's one of the reasons why I started up a Barn Heroes series, because I just want people to see in real life, like here's how we take care of pigs well, and they are having a good life. And to your point, we got to keep that simple though when we communicate that to the audience. So there are so many levels and so many different things to consider in just that little bit of messaging that you shared, because it hits so many audiences differently, and it's a lot to think about. I could talk about that for a long time, so I'm going to stop myself so I don't go off on a tangent, because that's been on my mind a lot. I'm super excited about what's in store with the Pork Board's new campaign coming. So it'll be an exciting year for that. But Randy, how about you? Get us back on track. Lesson you learned in 2024.
Yeah, I guess I learned two contradictory messages from each other. One is, speed up and slow down. And what I mean by that is speed up in making decisions, speed up in communicating with, your key stakeholders within your company. And my example to that is, coming across a health challenge in the barns and in our feed mills, we do pelleted feed. So, with as many different health statuses of pigs that we manage, if you come across a health challenge and you're also, in the heat of the summer, when you have a perfect storm of things that could go wrong in a barn, you need to act pretty quick on switching that pellet to a meal in order to try to reduce the amount of ulcers that you're going to deal with in the end. We had that issue happen this summer, and we learned from that. And it was, we were quick on some and not as quick as we needed to be on some others. And then the slow down part of it, we transitioned and a couple of our barns went to a different producer, and they're actually providing us with a really nice, healthy pig, a 14.5 pound pig at start. And we're seeing in the barns that, the daily, I've got a couple guys that do daily chores and they give the shots, and they're just really, happy with how healthy this pig is, how easy it is to start. Not much for health issues, but there's still opportunity there. So trying to retrain those guys, they went from giving, about 100 shots a day, 100 to 150 shots a day for the first 3 weeks on wean pigs that were, a little bit more health challenged, to doing maybe 10 or 20 or 30 shots a day. But getting them to slow down and look for different things that they haven't looked for before. And in this case, it was looking for strep, looking for swollen joints. And when you got 165 pigs in a pen, you don't have time to stop and look at every joint on every pig, but you need to look for different things that what you were looking for before. And simple things like if that pig isn't moving away from you as you enter the pen and trying to escape, or, fight or flight, if it's not trying to move with the rest of the group and it's lagging behind, that's probably a pig you need to take a closer look at and see if it needs an injection. So that's kind of where it's been for me in 2024.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love that. I love the two contradictory things, because it's so true. So many of the things that we need to do, it's like, it is this way, but it's also this way. So it's that balance. And that's a really good illustration. Adam, how about you?
Something that I've, learned in 24 that we're going to carry into 25 is how do we relate to people in the barn? We all have protocol books. Every company has, protocol books, and in a classroom setting, you can read the protocol, ask a few questions, go out in the barn. But one thing we did in a farm was myself and the production manager team, we called it an extreme farrowing makeover, where for 3 weeks, myself and the production team spent 3 days, 3 weeks in a row, working side by side with the entire farrowing team. And it was very structured and organized on, played people's strengths against each other. Not everybody is great at everything, but, who's our really good monitor? Who's our really good day one person? Who does really good with, sow care and on down the line. So we did this for 3 weeks, and we got to wean a group of pigs that we started with the farm staff. And the first couple of days, it was kind of organized chaos. The farm staff was nervous that, oh my gosh, all these people are in the farm with us. The manager was really uptight and nervous. But that third day and then the next couple of weeks, we were really able to teach that team, really how to be efficient and prioritize things and really put the icing on the cupcake. And that farm was weaning in 11.9 prior to our farrowing makeover, and just last week they weaned a 13.2. So how we teach and how we approach our teams is differently than the old, Gen X guys that we are, or people that's been in the industry for 20 plus years. Talking to those young people, our young employees, just better relating to them and better getting our message to them. So I kind of looked in the mirror and said, what can we do differently to help that next generation of the industry? And we had really good success there. And this week we're going to start another farm. So we're going to continue doing that. And it was a lot of fun. They enjoyed it, and hope to see continuing success with that.
Well, and don't you think being a parent too kind of helps you? All of a sudden, I think about that next gen a little differently. I think I had a way of thinking about it maybe 10 years ago, and now I'm like, what? That's my kid, and how do I think about how someone's going to mentor and teach her someday? And it challenges me to do better, I guess, because it's a little closer to home all of a sudden. So I think that's so cool. I've made lots of notes to follow up with everybody on, so that's good. You guys are giving me some good ideas here. But let's transition a little bit to what's happening in the barns right now. Obviously, it's the season of cold, and I don't know about you guys, but last week was just miserable, and for me, and certainly had a rough trip back from the Iowa Pork Congress myself. And so cold weather, it's lots of fun. Cara, what are some of the impacts that colder weather has on pork production, and what can be done to help mitigate those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can't underestimate how important it is, like, or how serious cold stress can be, like, especially at the time of weaning. We think about all of the stress we put these poor pigs through at weaning. We're taking them off mom, we're moving them to a different location, they're going into a truck for the first time, we're going to put them on solid food for the first time, we're mixing them with non-litter mates in large groups for the first time. That's a lot of stress at once. And so I can't underestimate, or I can't like understate how much cold stress can add to that. I was in the Netherlands a couple of years ago and asked one of the veterinarians there, like, hey, what's one thing that you did that really helped improve pig health and reduce antimicrobial use? And he talked about heating trailers and a huge focus on keeping pigs warm during transport, just to kind of keep that one piece of stress down. And so we've had a lot of conversations. We put some temp probes in some trailers. We did a bunch of training this year to try to make sure that our truckers understood like how incredibly important it is that we keep those wean pigs comfortable and just try to take that cold stress off the table so we can get them to a good start in the nursery. I mean, we talk about this in the fall too, but there's always the guys who try to use as little propane as possible. And we've got water dripping and we get strep and hemolytic E. coli issues. And so I think that's always something that I know Randy mentioned that last time too, that, all right, grow finish guys, we need to make sure that even though it's really cold outside, that we provide good quality air, dry floors for our pigs, things like that. Biosecurity, every year when it snows and when it gets cold, I think of that kind of crazy study that Scott D did. I think it was in the early 2000s with the snowball that he injected with PRRS and stuck up underneath his truck, and was able to show kind of the spread of PRRS in snow. And so I just am always reminding everybody, like, 'tis the season. You've got to be really careful with biosecurity, having a huge focus on just how easy it is to move PRRS around in the winter months. So those are probably my big things for winter.
Yeah, good. Well, and I like also want to think about everybody's unique perspective on cold weather. So, Adam, you're thinking about it in terms of reproduction, but also how does cold weather impact, ventilation, preparing your farrowing rooms for this time of the year? What are some of the things that you have to keep forefront as you get into this season?
Yeah, and we have some farms. Not every farm is a new farm, so a big thing we got to remember, especially through the cold weather, is any crack in a wall or a door or an inlet, anywhere air can get in, has got to be considered part of the ventilation. So you can move your inlets and adjust your inlets and set points and probes, but you really just need to step back and look at the whole room and go, can we seal or can we cover, cracks, crevices? Because we've got to set our ventilation for the coldest part of the day, which is typically at night when nobody's in the barn, and just really slowing down and taking back, not being in such a big hurry, and looking at each room, each farrowing room each time. Do we have everything perfectly ready to go to help ventilate them little pigs? Because, a sow's 101 degrees. And those baby pigs are 3 pounds when they're born. And, we try to keep the rooms, 74, 76 degrees, somewhere around in there. But that's still a 25 to 30 degree drop in temperature just being born. So making sure we have the rooms properly ventilated and prepared for the cold parts of the day, it takes an extra layer of just step back, slow down, take a look around. Do we have everything ready? That's a big challenge for us.
Yeah, for sure. Randy, what about, when you're preparing for wean pigs to come in, is preparation handled differently for a wean to finish barn versus a conventional nursery barn? What are some of the things that you're dealing with now?
Well, the conventional nursery barns are typically a lot more buttoned up, obviously depending on the age, and they're more forced heat in those. You run them a little bit warmer. The wean to finish barns, you got kind of like what Adam was saying, you got cracks and crevices. You've got inlets that may need to be adjusted. We put plastic on our end wall fans when we fill during cold temperatures. We'll adjust the fill plan based off of how many pigs we're getting. So we might overstock a room for a little while to maintain the heat in there better before we move them to the next room. We've got some pretty big barns that we've last week was a big struggle for us. We got pigs in last Tuesday, and I think the temperature at night was like -5, and during the day it was 0, and the wind was blowing, and we actually, we had to get creative. We could either turn off one of the pit fans outside, so we were running 2 instead of 3 on that minimal stage. We also can set it up through certain controllers, the controllers that we have, to where we actually ran the pit fans on a variable timer. So they would run for 5 minutes, they'd be off for 2 or 3 minutes, and then they come back on just to try to maintain some heat in the room. We over the years, we've installed clips on our inlets so we can actually shut some of the inlets up, just because, as some of these facilities get aged, you get holes in curtains and more air enters the building than what it originally did when it was built. So there's all different kinds of ways to try to do it, and it's kind of, trial and error into what method you're going to use. But I've got a good crew of guys that have a lot of experience that we've kind of shared those ideas. And a big one is making sure that building is warmed up the day before properly, so when those pigs do get off that truck, they're not laying on cold concrete waiting for that barn to get heated up. You want them to be as comfortable as possible, to try to spend their time figuring out where the feed is, where the water is, so they can get started properly, and not so they're huddling in a corner on top of each other, compromising their health on getting off to a bad start.
Makes a big difference. Brad, what about you? What are some of the areas from your perspective that producers look at when it's colder out versus when it's warmer out?
Yeah, I'm actually going to piggyback a little bit off of what Cara said. Transportation loss. So if you kind of look at, let's just talk about from a finisher to a packer, a typical average transportation loss, which would be a dead and or like an injured animal that you're going to get some sort of reduction in the full value of that pig, is going to be somewhere between 0.25% to 0.75%. So putting some real numbers to that really quick is, let's just say at 0.5% on a 2,400 head finisher, that's 12 pigs, right? So then you take those 12 pigs, that again would be a transportation loss, whether that's from a mortality or injury, at $180 a head, that's a little over $2,100, $2,160 to be exact. So let's just say for 250,000 pigs, and there's 2,400 groups, that's 104 groups of pigs. You take that times the 2,160, there's almost $250,000 right there that is lost, from a transportation standpoint. So all that money you put into, vaccinations, animal husbandry, rent, feed, everything from that, and it's lost because of, well, did I not put on barn lime, right? With the environment that it is. Adam touched base a little bit on the air standpoint, with that cold air coming in, even to a finisher standpoint, are those pigs getting stressed because that cold air is hitting them right there in the face? It's just transportation loss is kind of one of those things. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about on a daily basis, but you should, because it's one of those areas that from a low-hanging fruit to be able to, maybe have more revenue is, where are our transportation loss? Where is it today, right? Where's the industry average? But, can we get better, from a lighting, from a floor standpoint, and from a ventilation standpoint?
And I like that, can we get better? 'Tis the season too for all these winter trade shows. I've been enjoying getting to a few so far. And I really am I always find it interesting because, you start to go to one and then you hear a lot of the same topics in the next one. But I guess it also reinforces to me when I hear that, like, these are the topics, these are the big things in everyone's mind. And so one of the topics that I've been hearing a lot about lately is artificial intelligence. I know I'm supposed to call it AI, but AI is always going to be something else to me. So it's really hard for me to call it AI. But anyway, that topic came into conversation a lot at Midwest Pork Conference. And I'm curious, from your perspectives, where do you see AI, artificial intelligence, being integrated more into the industry in the near future? And Randy, let's start with you. In your barns and in what you're doing, where do you see that application taking off here in the near future for you guys?
Yeah, I think the most logical place I think it's going to start is, wherever we have the data, and our data is, from a lot of our controllers and systems that we keep track of on a daily basis and wean and finish is probably going to be around feed and water. So using that AI as a predictor for health issues or potential health issues, I think will probably be on the forefront. Another opportunity that I think I've read about and seen is going to be along, using cameras to potentially predict, when you're ready to take your first cuts or top cuts out, or just projecting how big your pigs are. I'd be interested to see how they're going to do it, because it sounds extremely complicated to me, but that's why I raise pigs in a barn and I don't write code. So, using the length and width and height of the pig to determine when you think you're going to have 160 of them ready to go on a truck. That's one thing, but being able to actually go out and mark those 160 pigs is another. So I don't think it's going to eliminate the need for the human being in the barn, unless, you can get a robot that can walk pens. But it is interesting and exciting to see where it's going to go in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Good. How about you, Brad?
I was going to tell Randy, bring back to scale barns, right, Randy?
Right. They're coming back. They're on the way back.
Sure they are. I'm sure they are.
Not my barns. Somebody else has them.
I think Randy hit a bunch of good ones, with these smart sensors, these controllers, with closeouts and stuff. There's the ability to be able to say, here's when I need to market pigs. Here's what I'm going to have from a projected standpoint. I'm going to have a health break coming up here in 3 days because the water just dropped by 50%. Predictive analytics, predictive forecasting, I think is where I'm most excited. Shameless plug, we're doing some of it already here at MTech, but getting all that data, collecting that data, understanding that data, looking at the history of it. That's a lot of work to be done, right? But can we do it? I really think we can. There's so much data, and yes, there's a lot of variability with genetics, with barn types, and there's the human factor here as well. But it just seems like it's coming. When? I think it's just like everything from the controllers, just from that to where 25 years ago when I started in pigs to where they're at today has evolved. Hopefully, it's not going to take that long for AI. But how data was used 25 years ago to where it is today and where it's going to be in the future, I think is very exciting. And ultimately, it's important to focus on what's important, and what's important probably depends on what role that you play within your company, as far as what you're looking at, right? But I think with the amount of data that's coming in and how it's being used today, it's very exciting to be able to help pork producers get even better and more efficient.
All right, Adam, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so I agree with you on the AI comment. I have to say the whole word as well. But for the sow production side, AI is really going to help us predict trend lines much quicker. We all have got data systems and production records, and we're looking at the 8, 12, 16, 26 week trend lines. I think artificial AI will help us predict those trend lines much quicker, so we can make decisions that will influence production numbers quicker one way or the other. So I also got to agree with Randy. I'm not the guy writing the code. I'm definitely more than happy to go to the barn and take a look at it there, but we're going to need that intelligence to help us make decisions quicker, be more proactive versus reactive with it. I think that's going to be part of the future.
Well, and I love how it brings people together from their different areas, right? And so it's that group think tank when we all get better when we're getting a little perspective from outside of our box. And so I think that I find that to be intriguing too, when it comes to thinking about the role of artificial intelligence helping us make progress on the farms. Cara, how about you, from your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I don't think we're that far from a time period where we might have people that walk into their barn for the day and go pick up a printed list of these are the 12 or these are the 100 animals you need to pay attention to today. Everybody else is good to go. This pig has a fever. This pig is limping or has reduced movements according to the camera. This pig hasn't been at a feeder. I just think our caregivers are going to be really empowered with AI to go really focus on caring for the animals that need it. And then I think that's going to give us so much information on like, hey, before a PRRS break, you see a reduction in movements. This is how much water intake reduction you see. And so I just think we're going to be able to diagnose disease quicker, identify things quicker, and we're just going to learn so much through some of this AI about disease processes and movements. And I just think it's going to really help us improve our ability to take care of pigs. So I'm really excited about the next couple years with some of this AI.
I think it's appealing to maybe more people to come work in barns. You know, the opportunity to be able to be at that intersection of some of that, I think, is pretty exciting too. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that it can help us, you know, draw in people to our barns too. But I guess we'll see. Well, you know, before we wrap up today, I mean, there's always so many good things in the conversation, lots of things that I will keep thinking about far past today. But one of the things that I do appreciate about all of you guys is that you are very goal oriented, and especially when it comes to thinking about goals on the farm. And obviously, we all need to be chasing after something to be able to continue to grow, right? So, you know, I guess for farms and companies that are looking to get better in 2025, any piece of advice or final thoughts today on either setting, reviewing, or reaching goals? And Brad, do you want to start us off on that? What things come to your mind?
Yeah, sure. Yes, definitely love setting goals, right, and then achieving those goals. The first thing I just want to call out first is like, there's nothing more frustrating like when I was a caretaker to get goals that were just like unattainable, right? Like I'm not going to get a 2.5 average daily gain for a finisher, right? I mean, understanding using data to understand kind of, okay, what has our system been able to do, not just last year, but previous years from a trend standpoint of goals that we're going to set for our company, right? And I think it's also important as you're setting goals, you know, we don't want to be average, right? There's nobody in the pig industry that wants to be average, right? You want to be in that upper tier, whether it's the top 10%, the top third, if you will, is to be able to say, okay, here's what we've done in the past as a company with our own genetics, our own farms, our own diets, whatnot, to be able to say, okay, well, what's the industry been able to do, and can we reach for those goals? You know, some of the more common goals that you know, maybe Randy and Cara and Randy will touch base on, but from a sow standpoint, kind of the most common, like pigs weaned per male female per year, right? Sometimes there's an incentive based on different ranges, right? Maybe if I go from a 28 to 29, I get X. Maybe from 29 to 30, I get Y. You know, pigs weaned, right? That's a big one. You know, coming out of a sow farm, and it's not just the pigs that have been weaned, but like full value pigs, right? So it's quality pigs that are heading out the door, that are being accepted into that nursery or weaned to finish, that are full value pigs, right? And obviously from a sow mortality standpoint, you know, caretakers can have a huge impact in that with, you know, proper animal husbandry, can definitely impact that. From a grow finish standpoint, you know, feed conversion, right? I mean, I remember, just a quick story. I remember, you know, back in my Holden Farm days when I was out there, we had Steve Dreetz, who when he was at Kansas State came out and he was like, the impact, Brad, that you can have on feed conversion really is kind of small, but it's not really. I mean, like I can't have feed conversion go from let's say a 3 to a 2.5. I mean, that's unattainable. You can't do that. A huge change. It's got to go pellets, whatnot, right? Energy levels. But what you can impact is, you know, my square footage, you know, the way that I'm treating pigs, right? Those late term deads that, you know, you put all those, the feed into, and then you're, you know, unfortunately losing those pigs. So from a feed conversion, mortality, average daily gain, cull percentage would be some of those kind of KPIs that are kind of the most common that I hear of for goal setting.
Great. Thank you. How about you, Cara?
Well, so our team in Iowa right now, we're reading through the book. It's Start With Why. And so to me, I think I'm really trying to change my perspective of not necessarily what is the goal or how are we going to get there, but really helping our teams understand why exactly we're doing that, and then kind of pushing out from there down to the how and what. And so obviously from an animal welfare standpoint, a lot of it is because we care about the pig, right? And so, and the customer. So really focusing on why it's important, why are we doing this protocol this way? Why is this something that we have to change? Why is this audit something that we're doing? And just my goal is to really kind of educate our teams on the why for things in 2025 as we're setting goals.
Yeah, I love that. That's perhaps one of my favorite questions is, what's your why? I think it's really important for us to all think about in all aspects of our lives, not just our jobs too. How about you, Randy?
Yeah, we're kind of unique where we've got 5 different customers we work with, so we've got 5 different kind of sets of goals that we all kind of strive after. We get the opportunity to go to a couple of our customers' grower awards, and so how we set our goals is we want to be the best. We want to do better than the people that actually work for these companies on a day-to-day basis. And we take pride in what we do, and we want to execute their protocols the way they want them done to the best of our ability. And we want to show that the way that we work with our growers and we support our growers, my field advisors and myself, we're in those barns with those growers doing the things on a day-to-day basis. We don't just show up and write a report and leave. I've seen that happen before, and I've heard that communication from contract growers and employees that they really appreciate it when you spend the time in there with them, and you get a lot more buy-in. So our goal is to always try to be better than everybody else, and I think we've been able to do that in quite a few of our situations. We've taken home quite a few awards. We're not as big as some of the big boys, but we take pride in our ability to raise almost any pig you throw at us. So whether it's healthy or unhealthy, we're going to strive to do the best we can with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's excellent. And finally, last but not least, how about you, Adam?
Setting goals and KPIs, they're pretty similar across most companies, but one thing I like to do is sit down with my team and just present it to them. How do you think we can improve this? What number do you think we can reach? It definitely has to be obtainable and easy to track, and SMART goals, all of that. But most of our teams know the end result and know what we're looking for. But for us to sit back and listen to them and have them be part of the process, get their buy-in, and really make them feel part of the decision for the go forward plan for the farm. That is really cool to sit back and watch that, because they may set the goal a little bit higher than what maybe I would have, or what our company goal would have been. So it's really great to see a group of people just get excited about, this is what we can do, this is how we're going to do it, and let them be a part of it versus just dictating down to them all the time on, we need you to be 1 pig PSY better this year. Thanks. It's like, guys, what do you think we can do? And when they're a part of that decision making and a part of that process, it's pretty neat and pretty rewarding to sit back and watch them get excited about it. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking this year, is getting together with the production manager team and all the sow farms individually, and here's kind of what we want to do. Here's what history tells us. What can we do? What can you guys go do this year? And let them run with it. So it's been pretty fun. Pretty excited about 25.
Well, I mean, the enthusiasm and the passion in this group here alone gets me pretty fired up for the year ahead too. And so congratulations to all of you guys. We've survived doing 1 year of this. We've now officially put out 4 State of the Pork Industry reports. And I have to say, if nothing else, I'm incredibly grateful that I can now say I know each of you better. I've been reflecting a lot on why this industry means so much to me, and it really is the people. And I was listening to somebody share a quote by by the man who started Chick-fil-A. And he said something to the effect of, we're not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. And I've been thinking about that a lot since then. You know, like why I do what I do is because of the people. And that's evident to me. Like we all love pigs and you guys love pigs, but you really have such a heart for people. And I hope that for everybody listening and viewing that you're able to hear and see that passion from this group. And I hope that you'll think about this group when you have questions, or if you have topics that you'd like to learn more about, like please reach out to us. You can reach out to any of us, reach out to me here at Farm Journal, and we'd love to be able to address some of those in our future podcasts that we're going to be doing together. So again, I just want to say thank you for joining us for the State of the Pork Industry Report, hosted by Farm Journal's Pork and brought to you by Neogen. We would love to stay connected with you in between these as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out and follow us at porkbusiness.com. Until next time, thank you again.